here I go again, just traveling on a journey to who knows where.
They used to call Clareman Daithí O'Droney, the boy with the fiddle, but forget about all that. His debut album In Flight is full of banging dance tunes, loop stations and some killer guest vocalists. I met Daithí and asked him, does he think In Flight will surprise some people?
Kind of an interesting one. I think anybody who's been kind of listening to my live shows in the last, say, about year or so, I don't think so, because they're very set in that sound. I made a very conscious decision to get a lot more electronic and dancing in the last kind of year or so. But for people who would know me from a little bit back, they might find it a bit weird that there's a small bit less fiddle in there, I think. So I think the big aim for this album was to try and like really make songs as the main kind of focus, you know, and not let the fiddle kind of get in the way of some of the vocals, definitely.
Lately I've been looking for a restart, a way to spin it back and start afresh because of you.
Daithí really has gone deeper into dance on In Flight, but was that fiddle becoming a bit of a, well, novelty?
Running round in circles, I don't need this.
Yeah, at points it's kind of this thing where people tended to almost go to the shows just to see me do stuff with the fiddle as opposed to listen to any kind of music, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I think I had to make a very kind of a conscious thing to make sure that I wrote songs and to get people to really be interested in the music as opposed to like a physical thing that I do, if you know what I mean. Now, I mean, the live shows still have a lot of fiddle in them, and it's a very kind of, it's a very important thing in my live show because it's such a kind of an active thing, you know. I'm not just stuck behind a laptop or whatever. I kind of have to really kind of make sure that the fiddle is in there. But for the record, I didn't want to put any fiddle in just for the sake of putting it in, you know what I mean? If I had an idea or a kind of like a verse or a chorus or whatever, I didn't want to have it like just shoved in there without kind of any reason, you know. So the songs were the most important thing.
Lovely geezer. That's Daithí in Iceland, and he also travelled to New York, Dublin, London and his native Clare during the making of In Flight. The album also includes some killer vocalists, including Ray, Elaine Mai, Young Wonder from Cork and Sanita.
First of all, I can't sing at all. I've got the worst voice in the world. So we knew that we had to get kind of some really good vocalists in down. And with the songs that were coming together so well, I think we really wanted to have a very high standard of singer. That was a really important thing for us, regardless of where they came from or if they had like some sort of notoriety beforehand. So like people like Ray and stuff who hadn't kind of been out before, who hadn't kind of like sang anything before that people wouldn't know, just sounded so amazing and kind of worked really well that we just sent them tracks and they kind of really liked it. There's not a huge amount of electronic pop music in Ireland at the moment. I think it's a kind of a point that I've kind of come to realize over the last while talking to people, is that like it's a very kind of interesting thing because it's all over our radio.
Do you feel alone?
I do feel alone. Like at points I really do, yeah, because it's all over our radio. Like it's nearly all electronic dance music, but there's not a huge amount of Irish acts.
Why is
you know?
that, you think?
This is the question that I've been trying to think for a couple of months now. But I think we've a really strong singer-songwriter kind of culture here. I think we've like really amazing singer-songwriters, and that kind of lends itself almost more to bands and stuff. So you know, you think about the really successful kind of pop acts that are guys like Codaline, I guess, Kronos obviously, and like people like that, and I think that almost it's almost just kind of, it's like an extra leg of the real kind of singer-songwriter thing that we had when I was growing up, you know. That was such a culture, you know.
I've shed the weight of my heart.
In Flight is very much a sunshine, beaches and beats album, but it's also got that sun-up, chill-out vibe.
I think that was always a thing that we did. I mean, we were quite heavily influenced by, say, UK dance acts like Disclosure and stuff like that, you know, and that has a kind of a slightly deeper connotations to it. Plus, I mean, I write everything for live, like everything that I write is always aimed to kind of get people moving. We were under no illusions. I was signed to a major label, and I knew I had to come up with some pop tunes, like, you know what I mean? Like, I knew I had to write some stuff for radio, you know. And I mean, we were under no illusions about that. We knew we had to write them, and I actually really enjoyed writing them. So it wasn't something that I had to kind of fight against, you know. I really enjoyed writing them. So I mean, we did what Motown did. Was we just like, we said, okay, 3 minutes, I have to get to the chorus as quickly as possible. We had all these rules, like there's certain chord structures that work well on radio, certain kind of like keys and stuff that work really, really well. So we wrote up a set of rules to write those pop tunes, and then basically just gave them, and I think it worked.
So you are the sound of Young Ireland, essentially, in the same way Motown was the sound of Young Ireland. Ballyvaughan, you hail from Ballyvaughan, like you live in Galway. What do your folks think of the album?
Yeah, I think they're really, really happy with it. I was even just starting out doing kind of alternative stuff and electronic stuff. I was a bit nervous because just my family has a really strong traditional background, and that's always been a thing. So I was really nervous about showing them, like the very first time I showed them what I was doing. But it actually worked out fine because like my granddad's the big guy now. He's the big famous dude.
Well, exactly, yes.
So yeah, I was really nervous showing him, but like he had a really good outlook on it. He was like, it's not traditional music. It's taking influence from what you've learned on that and making it into something new. And he said that sounds amazing, and as long as you're doing music, that's
so.
The main
This
thing.
idea of trad Nazis kind of trolling the boardrooms and say you can't be playing dance music, that's non-existent.
No, yeah, it totally is non-existent. I don't know
Damn.
where people get that idea from. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it would be a much better story, wouldn't it? But because I mean, my granddad would be one of the most traditional of traditional players. You know, like he doesn't want you to play a reel too fast and stuff. But I think he could see the distinction between. Like I wasn't just like taking trad tunes and putting massive beats over them, you know what I mean? And I'd hate to do that because doing that just makes it really cheesy. And I mean, that's one thing. I mean, I've always taken Irish traditional stuff like Shannon samples and stuff and putting them into dance tunes. But the biggest challenge with those things is to not make it cheesy because it's so easy to
then
do.
it turns into Europop.
Exactly.
You get an accordion from Sweden or
you
whatever.
don't want to be
Yeah.
like the Cotton Eye Joe of your generation, you know what I mean? So like...
Oh man, no.
So
Yeah.
it's so important to kind of avoid that cheese, and that was the biggest challenge, and it always gave you the biggest amount of rush when you get something that doesn't happen in, you know.